Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be looking more of TexTalks BattleTech, a primer on the clans Exodus to Elementals Part 2. Today is the next time we jump in there and indulge in just giant piles of masochism, watching as Nicholas Kerensky defecates all over the corpse of Star League at his feet that he decides to just shit on like the motherfucker he is. As you can tell, I don't have any strong feelings about this at all. Yeah, this is fun. And also the phrase, "God damn you, Tex, why couldn't you fuck this up to make it easier?" has never been said, ever. Yeah, I'm doing this willingly. I gotta remind myself of that. Yeah. If you guys haven't already, there's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. And when we're done, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. So let's just jump right into it.
And will gladly test their skills against
I
anyone
love just the freaked
at
out
any
face up here.
time, in any
That's a
play,
good choice.
for ownership of the sky. And that's something that Tira Miraborg demonstrated when she
I actually know this reference. I finally got a reference he made without having to go look it up afterwards. Yeah! She's the crazy-ass motherfucker who actually managed to kill a Khan.
handedly killed Ilkhan Leo Showers during the
Yeah,
clan
wait, saw them in
invasion
showers, really?
through a thing called a kamikaze attack.
Yup.
Claners were so impressed by this act of heroic sacrifice, they gave her her own lines in the remembrance. Take from that
Actually, wasn't aware of
as
that last
you
part.
will. Lastly,
Damn. Oh.
there's the most common clanner warrior phenotype, the Mechwarrior. These guys
I don't know why, but something about the arms just looks really off to me. It's like super spindly. Okay, that's not... Where's the... Oh, is it behind the back or is that the arm? That's the belt. Does the arm just cut? It's just something about this looks really weird. It's just the arm. The arm is really off-putting to me. I don't know why. It's kind of bugging
gals
me.
may look normal, but
it's
with
incredibly
massively superior
thin, that's why.
reflexes and a brain chemistry altered to better interface with neurohelmets, far better than their inner sphere counterparts anyways. They're second to none on the battlefield. Well, when their leaders don't lead them into the inner sphere while bidding away every single material advantage they have to ensure an honorable victory.
I'm certain no one got any clues that maybe Tex is biased, because with all the advantages the clans have, it's the sheer fucking arrogance. He's like, we're so good, we don't need to actually take you seriously, followed by, oh shit. Yeah, that never happened. He's definitely not biased against them.
But
He's
regardless
accurately
of their
representing
phenotype,
exactly how stupid it is.
Trueborn are a class apart, taught at a young age that they're the true inheritors and protectors of Kerensky's legacy, raised in social groups designed to challenge and shape them into the ultimate self-sufficient and loyal warriors, and then put through a training program engineered to weed out the weak, reward the strong, and to obey a ritualized honor system. Only the very best, even...
Okay, let's just be honest here. I'm looking at this guy's art, and all I'm thinking is, did you inflate your pecs? He's like literally it does just, considering the position of his head, he has an entire foot of muscle starting at his neck up here. It is deformed. Hell, I can even get along with the entire bulging biceps wider than my entire torso, but it's just the upper pectorals where there's not... It's literally muscles from your pecs growing over your pecs into your shoulders and combining to just push them out. It looks like someone literally put implants in there because they're just so freaking huge. And the neck is so far back. He's like, hello, guys. How are you doing today? Okay, one, ow. That actually hurt. Ow. Two, it's deformed. You don't... especially because the shoulder position shows that they're actually he's literally deformed. It's like literal scoliosis right there. He's literally leaning back, and the shoulders are like entire half foot in front of him, and the rest of the chest. Oh god, that is fucked up. Oh god, why is this triggering so many uncanny valleys? We've only seen a handful of images. I'm just getting so much uncanny valley. It's not even the grossly over exaggerated arms. It's literally just the position of the neck compared to the rest of the torso. Oh god.
And live to make it to the battlefield. Bred to be better warriors in every possible way, trained extensively on every piece of equipment they could
Guess who has roid
conceivably
rage?
use, and tested endlessly against each other in ritualized combat.
Yeah.
The Clanner Warrior caste is one of the most terrifyingly effective fighting forces in the history of humanity.
With the caveat being, when they actually decide to fight full out. And since they're clanners, they don't, because fucking ignorant assholes. They're not ignorant, more just arrogant.
It is no small wonder.
Oh, hey, there's brain everywhere.
They forged such a fearsome reputation on the battlefield. As failure for a trueborn, failure to live up to expectations, to rise to the top, to live to the requirements of whatever mission put before them
Turkeys.
means they are potentially stripped of power, authority, and honor, or worse, cast down into mere civilian life.
Now, that's actually one of the things I'm really curious about. How exactly does that process work, but being stripped and cast into civilian status? Because you think the increase in genetic stock over time would actually add up to someone who's naturally born with higher standards, but I'm assuming a lot of people who've gone through this are like, ugh, sex, no. Or maybe they're with it all the time. I don't know, because the entire heavily genetically modified and just really fucked up. Honestly, they're basically space marines, but somehow a little less deviant from genetic norms of humanity, that is. But also at the same time, somehow more arrogant. Yeah, sometimes.
And generally looked upon with contempt.
Wait, are those shell casings? But that's... Huh? I thought those were lasers. Yeah, because this one is just shooting... Oh, okay, they have different armaments. Cool little detail there. But I would have sworn because this... Oh, there's a guy behind them shooting. That's why. Okay, never mind. It's kind of extreme because it looked like a laser is going through and not
the rest of their days spent doing thankless work.
Thankless my ass is exactly what they want.
For this reason, and this reason alone, before resuming the history lesson, A Brave New World to Nicholas Kerensky was not something shaped by the resources he had on hand. This new world that he fashioned from history, from his father's musings, and from his own damaged mind, would not be inherited by the sons and daughters of the old. Radically changing how people thought and lived was insufficient to the...
Okay, I just want to give a quick shout out because I know we've seen this image before, but it's actually really cool how it's been edited. So it's actually 3 different images. There's the one here of this, well, I was going to say super soldier, but I guess clan warrior. We got whatever's up here I'm going with is banking because they have the dollar symbol on them. I just noticed that. And then there's the clan building sections, the actual mech sections. So we actually have 3 different images moving together. Check this out. You can see how they're moving slightly. Yeah. If we just go back, it's hard to see what I'm jumping for, but essentially there's just multiple images layered on. They look really good, and you can only tell when they start moving against each other. I thought this was just a static image they got, but no. Apparently this is just a really well-edited one. Also, yeah, Nicholas Kerensky. Fuck this guy. Every time I see him, just like,
nope. New society, bringing people to embrace his father's wisdom.
This one's going to the right. This one's going
creative hand
a little slower up.
Enough.
While this one's being pulled down.
The ways of the old inner sphere was not enough. He was not content to merely change what was in a man's heart, but the man himself.
Yeah.
Nicholas Kerensky's future required a better human being, and rather than wait for his civilization to produce them in line with his utopian vision, he used science to whip one up.
And obviously it definitely succeeded. And nothing went wrong ever, and there was no crippling arrogance that made their entire accomplishments absolutely useless. Yeah.
Soon after coming of age, the first generation of trueborn took their place in society, and humans made the old-fashioned way would begin to be looked on with scorn as second-class citizens at best. Genetics were an unnecessary lottery to General Nicholas Kerensky's thinking. They were a wild card, a gamble.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He gave himself the general tag. This is the part where I'm just sitting here going, can I get away with skipping this? Can I get away with just not... What a dumb motherfucker he is. It's like genetics being a lottery actually doesn't work out badly when you have a massive population base such as the inner sphere. Or if you go to something as crazy as the extent of, well, 40K covering the entire galaxy. Or even just Star Wars level of population. which technically is higher but also lower depending on where you look at it. It's weird. But when you have that much variation, a genetic lottery with that many sources to pull from is a massive amount of people. For him, he just has so many fewer. I could see why this might be more effective because he has less people to draw from. So even if it's 1 in 10 million, he doesn't have enough people to make that a large amount of people after you've gone through those 10 million minus 1 that weren't the person you were looking for. Then, Inner Sphere, they probably have those numbers. Depending on how many people live on each planet, I heard they don't actually get as populated normally as Earth does now, so it's billions to a planet. From what I heard, it's actually more spread out. Sometimes. Not all planets, of course. But here, they don't have the population support. That's what makes more sense. But at the same time, it's just... they're coming to generalizations based on their specific circumstance, which is honestly exactly what humans do, so it makes perfect sense. But also, it's a stupid one.
As for every great man, for every great leader a society can make.
And also
there will
Nicholas.
Be a million who would rise to simple mediocrity before being forgotten. And so this new society would be shaped primarily by those born to be
come everyone's wearing a beret?
trained to be the best society could offer, and only after extensive competition, led by the finest among them.
This is not tempting. This is not tempting. God damn, it's tempting. I hate this. It's also oddly satisfying. Just, squeeze that lid tighter, baby. God, why am I getting enjoyment from watching lids being, pickle jar? God damn you, I don't want to enjoy the ad. It's stupid, it's not well produced, but it's super satisfying in a way that I'm not really used to. It's actually effective, god damn it.
As for those born,
the fuck?
Natural means. Free birth is what...
No, I need to ask. What the fuck is on his head? I mean, literally, he looks like he's wearing something out of an old 1980s, 1970s era battle show. Not specifically a BattleTech or... actually, technically considering the unseen stuff, it looks like he's taken directly out of something from Macross. He's like, one of the enemies would all be green skin and giants, but also have those massive helmets every now and again. Or just like one of those generic enemies that was like, you fool, you have failed me for the last time. He even has the face that looks like he's shouting, you fool. I'm sorry. And the thing is, this is the newer art style that a lot of them have because it's super detailed, and it must be a hyper zoom in. But dear God, someone had fun with this helmet.
What they would come to call them. And it is the primary insult that Clanner uses on citizens of the Inner Sphere. But a society just isn't the people. For civilization must have an ideology. Honor was a critical sticking point and foundational belief for the nascent clan civilization. From creative, if not poetic, interpretations from his father's writings.
Is it really creative, though? Because I'm pretty sure he stole most of his ideas from other people who ultimately had empires that lasted a long time, but then collapsed horribly whenever things just got a little difficult and the situation of their creation dissolved. Some took longer than others. Others went like Alexander the Great, and as soon as he was gone, it was gone. Unfortunately, Nicholas wasn't that fucked up and had established a civilization that could survive him. I say unfortunately because I don't like what the clans went through for so long. Good things came out of it, but it took way too long.
And his own extensive imaginative input.
Read as Psychosis.
Kerensky would build a warrior society governed principally by ritualized systems of honor. But that's not to say their society doesn't have its own quirks. Quirks that would, in time, result in a radical divergence from the distant Inner Sphere relations. In a society with limited resources, strongly influenced from the hard, early days of survival on marginally habitable worlds devastated by near 20 years of reckless warfare. Clanner's society is notably engineered toward efficiency and does not allow for idleness, disruption, or chaos. They also recycle damn near everything and see waste as unclan-like. Yes.
Not bad, but also...
Recycling is not optional.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have questions about all of this. Toilet paper. Used? I'm a little disturbed about daddy issues. Oh, I'm sure they're using that one over and over again. The entire clan is literally just a daddy issue for Nicholas Kerensky, so this one gets a lot of usage. In fact, this should be a lot bigger. Use shrimp. Considering how many cast-off there are, that's actually kind of important. Use toilet paper. Not gonna think about this. Spent brass. Well, I guess the tax on that's pretty damn high. Unused taco shells. Yeah, honestly, considering my opinion of hard taco shells, this one makes perfect sense, unironically.
But you can't just will an ordered society into being.
Compliance is not optional.
Naturally, clanners use a variety of controls to force people into accepting and adopting practices that benefit their caste and clan.
Is one of those practices murder? Because I'm assuming a lot of it is murder, or being beat into an inch of murder.
From strict observations regarding work ethic, interpersonal communications, and conduct on and off the battlefield,
and murder,
clanners rarely stray from the mold they're placed in, and admirably enough, it seems to work. Peace would be maintained through superior firepower.
I'm sorry, what just flashed on the screen? I'm not the only one who saw that, right? Was it just like a random glitch on mine, or was there just something they edited in and forgot to completely splice out? Maybe it was just me. Just gonna keep going back until we see it. Also, hey, cool, there's a little mini mech over there. Neat. I wonder if that's more of like a helper mech. Also, this is one of those giant mechs they put in every now and again, but not nearly as oversized as some of the others. Okay, maybe it was just a glitch on mine visually. Disappointing. Dude, also, that is, I think, identical to the mech from Alien, isn't it? Especially with that open cage style. Cool. Like,
Peace will be maintained through superior firepower, tempered by a warrior caste that I will admit have noble intent, and that they are unwilling to fight a war on the sheer reckless scale the Inner Sphere was historically known for.
Also, they couldn't because they literally didn't have the people or resources to do it.
To a clanner, war was for a purpose. You fought your enemy to gain new technology, new land, people, resources.
Oh my god. Sorry, I read what this said. Here there be tigers. Tygers. I can't even tell if this is an edit or not because they put the tiger stripes on it, but it's adorably stupid. But it's like little kid did it. Also, considering how fast they probably grow up, he literally is probably a little kid. Heavily matured, but also at the same time, we all know.
Resources or honor. War was never to annihilate your enemy unless absolutely necessary.
Mad cat tiger, makes sense.
War was never ever to inflict significant damage to worlds if you could help it.
Some of them.
Was a strictly regulated contest between warriors and governed by a code of strict conduct to ensure, above all, when the smoke cleared, civilization endured. In theory, these rules and guidelines ensured that society was tempered into never again repeating the violent mistakes of the past.
See, it's that little caveat he put in there. It's the in theory part. Because it's like, you know what? In theory, this is a great system. In practice, yeah, I would have, even if we didn't see Mars already starting to fade in, we know exactly where this is going. Every step of the way, the clans aped Amaris way harder than they realized. And if Nicholas Kerensky had ever had anyone point that out to him, he would have forgot immediately because that person was no longer speaking or capable of, or, you know, not perforated like Swiss cheese and bleeding out. If they were able to bleed out because it wasn't a high energy weapon that automatically cauterized it. But I'm sure that's completely unrelated. Because I'm sure he would absolutely love being compared to Amaris and having someone point out, hey, you know, you're kind of a megalomaniacal idiot who's doing really, really good things with really, really dumb outcomes. Nah, I'm sure he would be fine with that comparison.
That's not to say there was ever peace in this strange warrior utopia.
Yeah, utopia in my
Boring
house.
clanner society. There was always a conflict, but it was always small scale, controlled and highly focused conflict, governed by agreed upon terms, and served as an outlet for many long-standing feuds that might go otherwise unanswered.
The thing is, that's what I really think is the biggest hypocrisy of all warrior culture in the clans. they have agreed upon terms. They can come together to make these agreements. They have very defined focus on what they're going to do, and they're using battle as an outlet. But all of that is literally useless because they could do every other step up until that point. Showing that, yes, they actually have succeeded in making a government that could, not government, just like a civilization that could talk things out. And then they choose not to. It's probably the most realistic and also the most utopian aspect. They have a civilization here where they can talk out their shit. And they do regularly for their actual conflict. And then they just choose not to finish that conversation with anything other than fighting. Because warrior honor. But also because it's literally based around doing as much as you can not to fight, but also to literally do everything you can to fight. It's that mentality of the warriors are completely useless, but they've made so much of their entire culture based around them that they become the most integral, useless part of it. It's like Rome and their reliances on bread and circuses. As long as everyone is happy in Rome, things were fine. It's also why they collapsed, because things weren't good in Rome when they finally fucked up. And people started rebelling because it's like, hey, we're not getting what we want anymore. I'm oversimplifying that to an incredible extent, I'm aware. But in general, that is kind of a true principle. People got what they wanted. They wanted to fight, so they were willing to talk. Again, I know I'm oversimplifying this one here, but just... it does kind of highlight how their entire clanness is literally a giant pile of fetishistic warrior tropes. They're doing so much with so little, but also wasting so much because they don't need to have conflict anymore. They could literally move on, but they don't because their entire founding principle and point was not to move on, but to go back to the inner sphere and fix it. But let's be honest, no one actually believes that part. And they certainly didn't do by the time they got to the end of it. Or, well, they did in their own really deviant way. Ugh.
With ritualized rules to guide them, the warlike nature of the clans was governed by the understanding that they would endeavor to never again resort to the barbarism of the inner sphere. And again, I have to give them kudos for that. That is, after all, a far better job of things than we did in learning from near annihilation.
Yeah.
The inner sphere went through 4 succession wars to determine that nukes are probably not so great when everyone uses them at the drop of a hat.
To be completely fair, though, that does make a lot of sense. The entire nukes are easily used, mostly because people don't fear something when they don't believe it'll hit them. So as long as you're nuking another planet where there's literally no chance of quite literal blowback, such as a radiation plume, it gets a lot easier to use weapons of mass destruction when you have literally no concern about being hit yourself. That obviously wasn't true because everybody got nukes in the first couple wars. And then everyone just got dead in the last couple, but not to the same extent, but still a lot. Yeah, just as much as I give shit to the clans, they did keep their civilization losses down. I just hate the way they achieved it because it pisses me off. But they did do a better job. That said, I don't like giving the clans any kind of kudos at this time period.
And that technology is hard to replace when you kill everyone who knows how math works. Through Nicholas's orders, clan society did away with many structures of the inner sphere, and what it borrowed or interpreted was modified to suit the needs of the clans. But there were some parts of their distant cultural ties to the inner sphere they couldn't part with.
Like breaking into
One
groups?
of those things being language. Whereas
Really?
the inner sphere speaks a wide variety of tongues, from the German spoken in the Lyran Commonwealth as an adopted state language to the bizarre mixture of Swedish and Japanese spoken in the Free Rasselhag Republic.
I thought you said that
The
Rasselhag?
clanners,
Oh.
however,
I've only ever
still
read it.
speak the mother tongue of the SLDF, Star League English, and this language to them is sacred. It is an artifact of an age of heroes and their mighty.
I'm sorry. I just find it funny that we're calling Swedish Japanese the weird mix when English is literally ripping off other countries other civilizations, other regions of the planet for their vowels, verbs, and pretenses, and honestly every other part of it, and just butchers them for their own usage. It's literally a language of stealing other languages' things and adding it to them. It's like, this is a part of our language. It is now part of our language. English is the language that takes the "in Soviet Russia" meme and does it literally. I mean, that I'm not even joking about this part. It's completely serious. English is literally the bastard language of everything. Had it its own root? Yes. But it is so deviated from this, especially American English, which is just, Senora. Okay, sure, it's English now. Is it? No, it's Spanish. But people have used it so regularly, or like the word gracias. There's so many words that just filter into English from other languages that if you use it over time, it just becomes a giant mess of what the fuck are we even saying? But it kind of works. Ain't is a word now. It was a derivative used by people who didn't actually know how to speak, up until enough people used it so it became a word, and now it's in the dictionary. It is literally a language of bastardization, and they're holding it up as sacred. I love this, considering I've been calling them just, well, essentially bastards this entire time, and their entire language is fetishistic about a bastard language. I love this, and yes, I am an English major. I have a very good point to say that, yes, everything I'm saying is unfortunately and also hilariously accurate.
T-Deans. It is the high and noble language of Kerensky,
Noble my
of their
ass.
founders, of the wise and noble messianic figures who guided them to this place
And Nicholas.
gave them everything they have.
And then they shadow their graves.
Tether that bonds them not only with their past and their founders, but the distant age of the Star League itself.
Yeah, they would hate
Their
every one of
language
you.
is treated with the reverence of a holy text, and speaking it poorly will result in sometimes tragic.
I'm sorry, speaking English poorly. Oh, but American guys, you don't speak English poorly. Americans speak you. And that was my attempt at a Texas accent, and you can see why I never do it often. It was bad. Also, English is literally the language of bastards that they're worried about. Someone speaking it badly. Please tell me that all those over-the-top just joke languages are so up their own ass at this point that it's kind of like going into a Shakespeare production and thinking the high British voice they all speak is actually how they're supposed to do it. Also, random aside, original language usage of Shakespeare had a much more earthly down to sound brogue that was closer to almost Irish or Scottish. Not that I can actually report it, but it had much softer vowels. So you could actually get a lot more rhyme out of words that when you read in a very fine British accent. I cannot do a British accent right now, damn it. But if you ever did the high British accent, it would sound so wrong. And they're literally doing it. They're literally doing the fake Shakespearean high-class British accent for a language that's meant for everyday normal people. This is hilarious to me. They're literally making the exact same mistake that everyone does after their civilization goes on for too long. Or just long enough, usually about a century. Yeah, about a century too, yeah. Which is also roughly how long they had. So just, sorry, the parallels between actual issues and fetishistic appreciation for cultures, specifically English language, while also completely missing what it is hilarious to me. This is just fun.
Consequences. In fact, it's worth noting that they hold such respect for the language that they consider the use of contractions to be extremely ill-mannered and dangerously unclan-like. Their language is a critical bridge to the distant past, to the time of the founders, and keep.
I love this. I love this. I love everything about this because it is so incredibly wrong. Specifically, stupidly wrong for how the language functions, that the fetishistic nature of it is becoming so goddamn clear. I love this text. Thank you for pointing this out. For an English major who's literally had to spend way too many hours focusing on this for actual tests and somehow hasn't been able to forget it yet, this is literally just a giant pile of, ha! Suckers! I love this.
Keeping it alive, in a sense, bonds them with the great deeds of Kerensky. The language has.
Yeah, they kept those deeds alive, exactly. It's just like they completely held up his legacy.
And sheer distance from any other cultural influences, The language is more or less the same as it was in the late 28th century, but I will say that there are words created in the deep periphery that have no translation to what I'm speaking now. Here.
Okay, one, yeah, words created, that makes perfect sense. Two, to give you an idea of how long their language hasn't changed, I like to point out that ax as a way to ask someone a question is technically, by Old English, Victorian era, the correct way to say it. You don't ask someone a question, you ax them a question, because that was actually how you did it during a significant portion of quite a bit of history. And then it was deviated into ask instead. Little things like that are how language changes over the course of even 50 years, let alone 200, which is roughly how long it went. So you hear that now, it's like, oh, you're being really pretentious. So every time the clan comes back in and they're speaking like that, a couple 100-year-old dialect or a few 100-year-old, everyone's like, really? Huh. It's listening to Old English. That's literally what they're doing. They're listening to Old English, but also completely not understanding how English functions, especially the contraction thing. That is one of the things English does significantly, because it's meant to be a language of just doing anything. You can tell they didn't bring many English majors with them. Also, an English major would have read what they're doing. It's like, yeah, nah, I'll just die. Also, they probably would have just died.
Here is a small taste.
Wait, what? Oh, this is a VHS player. Can we pretend I got what that was? I just saw all the buttons. I had no idea what I was looking at. What? A Brief Guide to Clan Terms by Comstar. Okay, I hate the overlay they're putting on. It's just flashing way too much for my taste. The fuck?
So,
Tad Brandy.
You're about to get into the battle with the clan.
Bandy?
And while you're out there on the battlefield dodging bullets and their horrible battle tactics, you might also hear some weird language. Here is a quick list of some of the terms you might hear on the battlefield.
Did he just say a queef lettuce? I'm not going to say anything. I know what the answer is. No, let's scratch that. I'm afraid I know what the answer is, and I don't want to actually comment on that. Af.
Affirmative.
That's lazy.
Negative. Batchel.
Stupid.
Battle challenge. It's when the clan actually get together and challenge each other to battle.
Okay, I'm going to judge myself on that one. That one actually makes sense. Also, it seemed really stupid. You just say challenge. But then, of course, they probably have challenges that aren't battle.
Blood name.
Stupid.
It refers to the blood name or surname of a certain clan. If you have a blood name, it means that you're much more important, supposedly. Bondsman.
Slave.
A prisoner taken during combat. Shawlcast.
I don't know that one.
Someone or something that is outside of acceptable clan culture or challenges it. The founder.
Bullshit asshole.
Nicholas? How do you say that one?
Nicholas.
Nicholas? Oh, Nicholas. Okay. The name the clans use for Nicholas. I'm gonna get that. Fuck him.
Yeah, no, he can't even bring himself to say that asshole's name. And I completely agree with this. Also, I love how just after every time he says the name, it's like smiling. It is that moment afterwards, right as he's fading out, where he's like, oh, God, shoot me now. That is hilarious, and I love it. Please tell me they got someone who's a massive Inner Sphere fan just doing all this right now. That's just hilarious to me.
Ah, shit, I must have taped over it. Anyways, back to the lesson.
Was he saying grift or graft? No, it's graft. Ah, yes, graft. A thing you would never assume is not actually how the Inner Sphere runs.
And while language is a mostly immutable construct.
Okay, I have so many questions right now. Why did they take what looks like a marauder, cut out the torso section, and put a beefed up B-52 bomber in the head. And then just mush the wings in with what looks like rocket pods. What? I don't... That is... We're just going to jump past this one. The guns look cool. The head... I expected to start having something on the side saying, Enola Gay was here. If you get that reference,
there are some things
nukes to you.
Clanners couldn't help but take wholesale from the Inner Sphere. Some things that were not cast away, mutilated, or changed significantly.
Belief in their own superiority?
For no other reason than to foster competitive spirit and team building, the Clanners play a variety of sports. I'm serious.
What the hell's up with that foot?
And I'll be honest, their teams are pretty fucking great. Clan Wolf loves the lacrosse of all things, though they do play it in full battle armor. Steel Viper and Star Adder both field and...
Unironically, that probably leads to a safer game of lacrosse than normal. I'm not even joking. You should look up some of the kind of fucked up shit people get hurt with in lacrosse. Wearing full battle armor to it, even though it's probably elementals playing it, it's probably safer than if they played it outside of it like the game is normally played. They probably have less injuries. Yeah, I had family that did lacrosse. They're fucking insane.
Impressive rugby teams, and Clan Ghost Bear plays an ancient Terran game called American football.
Yeah!
Their elementals do anyways. If any of their mech pilots are willing to play elementals in a game that encourages tackling, God fucking help them. While possessing no...
I want to hear a story just about how a mech jock, he was like, I am the greatest, plays an elemental in football. They deserve whatever happens next.
Unifying religious belief system, there is a sort of spiritual belief common to the core tenets of clan culture.
Oh?
In clanner culture, the Kerenskis and their great acts are synonymous with the core beliefs of the clans. It was they who led people away from the barbarism of the Inner Sphere
to their own very specific barbarism, completely shitting on their father. I know I've said it many times. I'm going to keep saying it because... God damn these two assholes. But mostly you. Mostly you.
And into this new utopia. A promised land made sacred by their hard work and sacrifice. Nicholas Kerensky is hailed as a messianic figure who rescued his people from their avarice, greed, and the darkness in their own hearts.
And considering how much he likes being a dogmatic figure, I'm not even going to be surprised if someone comes that's like, oh yeah, they actually did have some religious imagery they brought with them, and then they did just put his face on it. Also notice how most messianic figures in a lot of history or nobles were kind of repainted to just because they didn't know who the new guy was. Literally, this is actually a thing that's happened in history, slapping your face on it. There are places with actual historical records that they didn't know what George Washington looked like because whenever the American government took over, they just had pictures of King George. They just repainted it. And by that, I mean they just changed a few colors. They didn't actually change the face because no one actually knew what people looked like often. So he can walk in and the picture of him would be of King George and they just have the name George Washington under it. Instead of King George, it's President George. And that's the change. Yeah. So even though this is done as a joke, and also they've derped around with his eye on this one. I noticed that. That's funny. This is actually how a lot of history went before there was much easier printed mediums. And by that I mean pictures. Easily printed pictures.
From birth, clanners are taught a mythological form of their history, in that the Inner Sphere was once a beautiful paradise, wrecked by barbarians, and that the great houses are nothing but corrupt, neo-feudalistic states, intent on destroying everything of value.
As opposed to you, who are, honestly, not too corrupt sometimes, very explicitly feudalistic states, intent on destroying everything of value. Honestly, the corruption's an important change. And some of them don't actually seem that corrupt. I'm sure after Nicholas died, that was even true. Most places. And of course, because there are some clans that really would have benefited from some corruption because they're so fucked up, fucking them over more would actually be an improvement. Yeah, there's a few that I'm Yeah, there's a few that definitely existed just in lore to be the bad guys you would not feel bad destroying. And they did that job too well. Yeah. And this is where we're going to cut this one here, mostly due to time constraints on my end, because I actually need to be somewhere in about 5 minutes, and I kind of forgot it until 5 seconds ago, and I probably should have stopped this half an hour ago. Why was I recording this morning? Oh, yeah, because I really wanted to do this anyways. Screw time and being on time and not fucking up. Yeah, there's no problem with that at all. There's never been a war in Bossing, say. I'm in trouble. More importantly, I like this, and if it wasn't for the fact that they went on the entire language aspect, which I'm getting a massive kick out of for completely personal reasons, I would be a lot more pissed off right now, because it's so much hypocrisy. It's literally saying, we are so great. Also, we're going to ignore, we're doing a lot of the same bullshit the Hemisphere is, minus the mass wiping out of your entire technology base and most of the citizens. But let's be honest, they care more about the technology base. Honestly, even we do, because we actually get to use the tech, in game at least. It's... I haven't got to this in the lores because Tex hasn't covered it, and I try not to read into too much lore outside of Tex because I like to be surprised. But I have a feeling the period in which they struck back at the clans, falling to Cade, I think I'm going to really enjoy that time period, and I really, really hope Tex does an entire dive into that period, just to have that visceral sense of, finally... It's kind of like the second Amaris video where you're like, oh, hey, and Amaris is dead. Nice. Kind of like that. Minus the impending terrible knowledge of what's going to come after it and feeling just really sad because you know there's nothing left and you have to go and embrace the fact that all those cool things are now over. And now we're looking at the deranged, inbred failure that is Nicholas Kerensky's wet dream bringing itself to reality. Yeah. So all the same, everyone, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week when we do something that hopefully will just be more elementals who are just flat out cool and less Nicholas. But I think it'll be a lot more Nicholas because he's not dead yet. So it's going to be a lot more of him. Yeah. All the same. Link below, original video to Tex, and the entire Black Pants Legion. They're pretty awesome. Hit them up. When we're done, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.